I'm Marina, and welcome to Gun Talk. Today we have Damien from Western Shooters of South Africa to have a chat with us. Damien is also a firearms lawyer and the recently appointed chairperson of Saga. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, Marina.
Damien, I'm going to kick it right off. Can you explain to us about the Western Shooters of South Africa?
Sure.
Is it an association? Is it just a club? What is it about?
Okay. So we are an accredited sport shooting organization. So we are registered with SAPS. We are accredited with SAPS. We're also affiliated with SASCO. We're also affiliated with the Single Action Shooting Society of America, SAS. So we definitely are accredited. We've been accredited since August 2010. So we're able to award dedicated status. But I thought I'd maybe just give you a bit of background as to how we were established. So around about sort of July 2004, Brian Hall, who is a Canadian, returned to South Africa, and he wrote an article in the Magnum magazine. And he was quite involved with Cowboy Action Shooting in Canada for quite a few years. And in the article, you said, are there any like-minded people interested in Cowboy Action Shooting in South Africa? A few people did contact him, and about a group of 5 or 6 people contacted him, and it started sort of the nucleus of a sort of a very informal club back then. Fast forward about a few years, around about 2008, the club was growing, but they realized that the only way you can sort of get the guns and gear that we use, which are not your normal firearms, it's not your 9mm Glock or something like that. These are single action revolvers, they're lever action rifles and double barrel shotguns. So they're really extra guns that your average person doesn't have. So 2008, they started thinking about accreditation. They realized the only way you can move forward in South Africa to obtain those guns would be via dedicated status. I had been involved in sports shooting for quite a few years and left because of sort of business and practice and family and that. And then I returned to sports shooting also around about 2008, and I joined False Bay Sports Shooting Club, which was then False Bay Gun Club. I bumped into Brian one of the weekends on the range, and we started talking, and he found out as a lawyer, and he said, listen, you must come and join us, and you must come and join us next weekend. I said, what? And he said, yeah, come join us next weekend. So I joined them the next weekend. This probably would have been around about sort of late 2008, sort of January 2009. And I saw this, and I thought, just what fun, absolute fun, dressing up as a character persona, and sort of shooting these single action revolvers and lever action rifles. It was great fun. Then they said to me, all right, now you're a member, please help us with accreditation. And back then I had been I was a practicing attorney already for about sort of a few years already, but hadn't really dealt with much with firearms law other than writing doing my own competency and that type of stuff. I learned a bit about that from the manuals and that. But I said to him, okay, let me look into this, let me find out what it's about. Started making a couple of phone calls, but there's one organization that was very helpful, which was the Swiss Rifle Club of Cape Town. And we met with the chairperson then, and he helped us a bit. And that's how I started learning about firearms law, was actually getting involved in that accreditation application. And I sort of was thinking out of the box a little bit. And we put that application in, would have been sort of late 2009, and round about sort of middle 2010, I was speaking to Jacob Botma, who was then the director, and trying to get it pushed through. We joined SASCO, and then we received our accreditation in August 2010. That's
so your 10-year anniversary is coming up.
Correct, yes, correct indeed.
Congratulations.
Yes, thanks, yeah.
Is there any special plans to celebrate your 10-year anniversary?
Well, we're going to have to try and do something. We are obviously hoping that with the new regulations coming out, hopefully soon, that we'll be able to do something. With the sports shooting being contained for some time, a lot of the guys are itching to get to their guns and that, itching to get back on the range. So we certainly hope that we can do something in August. I foresee the possibility that from July we will be open again with a limited type sport shooting, but certainly we're looking forward to it. We've also been quite fortunate that we've grown throughout South Africa. We have 7 clubs within the 4 provinces. So we have 3 clubs here in Cape Town, between False Bay and Kraaifontein. We then have one in George Neisner, and then we also have Bloemfontein and Free State, and then Pretoria as well as being in Port Elizabeth. So we're growing steadily over the last 10 years. But it's I think what makes it different from other sports shooting organizations is the family orientated background to it. It's great fun. You can see I'm dressed up as sort of a cowboy at the moment. That's part of the whole thing is dressing up and having fun, and it's for all ages, and ladies and men enjoy shooting. In fact, you've joined us before, Miranda, and you had great fun with us. I've still got that video clip of you skipping and jumping, which
it was fabulous.
Yes. So it's for everyone, really. It doesn't matter how good you are with general sport shooting, or how old you are, or where you are in your sport shooting career. It's for everyone, and everyone has has fun with it. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about the personas and the type of firearms and how they interlink? Because it really takes on a role, and you even give yourself an alias. So if you don't mind sharing yours and explain how that works.
So my alias is Dusty Devil, and it's unfortunately my first name is Damien, so I've got a lot of nicknames at school, like the Omen and the Demon, because there was a movie called The Omen in the 70s where the son of the devil was called Damien. So I couldn't get away with that at school and high school. So when I got involved with Cowboy Action Shooting, I thought, well, let me try and work with that somehow. And you actually register the name with SAS in America. So I managed to register that name with SAS in America. So quite often there can be historical type aliases, historical type names. More often not, people make up their own aliases, sometimes with part of their own character, the type of person who it is. But it's quite open, as long as it's obviously, not against good morals. You can't have swear words and that in your name, of course, that type of thing. So it does become part of your persona. You build up a character, a fictional character around the name, or it could be fictional if you're going to go for Wild Bill Hickok or something like that, which has been taken a long time ago. Those historical character names have been taken a long time ago by people in America. But you can build up a persona around that sort of fictional character or that non-fictional character. The guns obviously are unique, as I said in the beginning, with single action revolvers, lever action rifles, and double barrel shotguns. And that's why we had to go with accreditation. So I think that's what sort of makes it so nice, is the interaction with the firearms. So a single action revolver doesn't work on its own. You squeeze the trigger, it's not going to cock on its own. You have to make it work, basically. And the same with the lever action rifle, you have to make it work. The shotgun as well, double barrel shotgun, you become part of the firearm and making it work. As opposed to semi-automatic rifles and shotguns and handguns and that, you certainly have to make it work. And we're using generally replicas of firearms. Not many people want to use the original Colts, so these are replicas of firearms from the Wild West area. Initially, most of us started out with cap and ball black powder revolvers. And those traditionally were sort of from about the 1840s, up until about the 80s, 70s. So American Civil War era type revolvers. In fact, my first cowboy gun was a cap and ball revolver. And it has a total unique feel to it, loading those type of guns. But it's time consuming loading those type of guns. So most of us have moved over the years to the cartridge revolvers, primarily based on the 1873 Colt. And your lever actions are primarily based on Winchesters, either the 1866 or 1873 or 1892 versions of Winchester lever actions. Double barrel shotguns is not a problem. We have a lot of double barrel shotguns here in the Cape, and they're fairly easy to obtain. but it's really, I think the whole thing is creating the persona and getting into it. And our scenarios are quite nicely based on either movies or real-time shootouts, and you get yourself involved in that scenario, and it almost feels like you're back in time, back in the Wild West, so to speak. Yeah.
So Damien, when you speak about dedicated status, I assume you're now talking dedicated sport shooting and not
Correct.
dedicated hunting, since you
Correct.
won't necessarily use that
Yes.
firearms, and it's very time period based.
Yes, correct.
But I
Correct.
want you to please explain a normal Saturday scenario.
Okay.
You rock up to the range.
Okay.
Please explain to us, because I think that was the exciting
Yes.
part.
Yes. So, yeah, whatever club you want to rock up at, it's always best making arrangements beforehand so we can make sure that we've got all the gears and the gun and gears for the people. Because obviously, part of it is having a nice rig. I'm not sure if you can see it on the picture there. They have a nice rig is part of it. So we have spare rigs for it. Here's your single action revolver. So we have spare rigs for shooters who want to join us. And we have normally we have quite a lot of extra gear. So like for yourself, Morena, when you joined us a couple of years back, we made arrangements beforehand to make sure you had a nice rig for you. We normally say to people, if you have a cowboy hat, bring a cowboy hat, although we have spare cowboy hats, and wear a long shirt. They didn't have t-shirts in those days in the Wild West, and a pair of jeans. And if you have boots, some sort of boots would be nice as well. And then we do take you through a bit of training, because we realize that even for people that have done a lot of sport shooting with modern firearms, I've had IPSC international shooters, I've had national shooters, pro-tier shooters come to us and shoot with us before, and they're used to shooting semi-automatic weapons. So we will take you through a bit of training beforehand, take you aside and do a bit of training and get you into using the firearms and cocking these firearms. And obviously safety is always paramount. We make sure that you know your safety rules on that. And then once you've got a bit of a feeling for that, it's good for sort of a new shooter to watch and see how the others are shooting. One of the unique things about the way we shoot steel targets. So there's no patching up of paper targets and that type of stuff. We have spotters spotting and looking for misses. So you basically get scored a 5-second penalty for missing. And obviously we do take the time. It's a combination of the time and accuracy and obviously your misses. And I normally say to people that come shoot for the first time is take your time, get into it, take a deep breath and go through it. And normally we would have at least one or two with that new shooter. Even if that shooter's experienced with modern guns, we'll go with you, like I went with you through the sequence and help you through the sequence. And that's the other unique thing about Cowboy Action Shooting is that you can have coaching. So if you want coaching, if you want to be reminded that you have to do it this way or that way, because there obviously are sequences, you're either starting with your handguns and engaging the handgun targets and then moving to a rifle and using a rifle or shotgun. So some people do get flustered the first time around. So we're very happy to coach people through the course of fire. So from that perspective, the course of fire is similar to sort of your IPSC or SATPA type shoots where you have a course of fire that you have to go through. But we're more relaxed, I think. We're more laid back to a certain degree. But there are people that are very committed to their shooting. We have some exceptionally fast shooters, exceptionally good shooters out there that are very good. But this is also for your average person or even below average shooter that can have a really good time and good fun and come away with it with experience. And I think that's the difference, is the experience that people come away with big smiles, jumping up and down like you were, big smiles, having really a great time, enjoyment. And we often see it, and we that I think is the difference between us and other shooting organizations and sports and that. Yeah.
It definitely is family orientated, as you mentioned. There's room for the novice to an expert, where they can live out their expertise, being a skilled robber or in a fun environment. It's a miniature history lesson every time you shoot, because the scenario gets explained. if you could just quickly sketch one of those, because I think that was the fun
Yeah.
part, is
So
it's not just shooting at target, it's
yeah.
what's a whole scenario.
If you can recall the Unforgiven last scene from Unforgiven, when Clint Eastwood's character walks into the saloon, we have replicated that in some of our shooting scenarios, because the nice thing about Cowboy Action Shooting is the facades that we have. We've got building facades that we put up. So we've often done that scene where he walks through the saloon doors into saloon and confronts the sheriff and the owner's saloon, and you start off with your shotgun, and you only have one round in the shotgun, and then you have to move on to your revolvers and that. So we've certainly used scenes, and we love the Clint Eastwood movies. The Outlaw Josie Wales scenes we've done before, and some of the other scenes from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. All of that. So that's the nice thing about it. If you're really into your cowboy movies, and that like most of us are, we can replicate that, or you replicate it yourself, and you feel like you're in that scene, from that movie or from that historical event that occurred. And we've got some really good writers of the scene, because what is nice about it is not just the scenario itself, but the wording that leads up to the scenario, the background to what's happening, in that sort of scenario that we're shooting. We've got some really good guys that are really good at getting the right flavor, the wording and that to that scene, and building up to that scene, which also makes it different from the usual other sports shooting event where it's very bland and you getting robbed at your ATM and you got to pull out your Glock and take out a few guys in self-defense. This is sort of more the flavor of sort of the actual era and the period, so it's also which makes it different and fun as well. Yeah,
it definitely does, and the same goes for your whole costume. The equipment you use is very period correct. I was quite amazed to see certain holsters come from a specific time period. If you don't mind just showing that beautiful rig you've got again.
Try and get it up here again. So we're very fortunate that we've got, you can see that my Dusty Devil persona has been sort of engraved into the leather at the back there. So we're very fortunate. There are very talented people in South Africa that can work on leather. And Kali, who lives in Gordons Bay, Culliman Leather, he's exceptionally good. And he joined us a few years ago, and he's really got into his shooting. In fact, I threw him in a bit of the deep end. I took him to a national shoot in Bloemfontein. He only just joined us. There's a bit of a script to his system. And by the end of the national shoot, about 3 or 4 days of shooting, by the end, he was really getting into it. And he came back and he was totally invigorated by Cowboy Action Shooting. And he started making these superb rigs for us. And he makes everything now. And it's really good quality, thick leather. Good quality, thick leather.
Damien,
yes.
How do one get involved in Western shooting? Do we contact you? Can you give us some information? How do I go to become a member and start shooting?
So we've got a lovely, really good website, westernshooters.co.za. I'll say it again, westernshooters.co.za. And that has a lot of contact details on it, but people are welcome to contact me, Damien Ensign, on my cell number 082-6522-150, or damien@legalonline.co.za. And normally what happens is a lot of people do contact me through the website. I then direct them to local clubs in the area. I then introduce them to the local chairperson or local committee of that particular club. Then it's you get introduced to the sport and sort of trained a little bit to a certain degree with regards to how sort of these firearms operate in that. But certainly anyone's welcome to contact me via cell phone or email or via the website, and we will direct them to the right club and the right chairperson to assist them. So that's how you would get hold of us.
Damien, as the Western Shooting Association of South Africa, besides just dedicated status and membership, what else do you offer your members? Do you, for example, issue endorsements, since this is such hard firearms to...
Yeah. So exactly how all the other shooting organizations have established. So you have to get involved basically to become a dedicated sports shooter with us to get your DSS status. So you have to shoot at least 5 club shoots, or you can do a national and a combination of club shoots. But you have to obtain 20 points initially, which is 5 shoots, so 4 points per club shoot to get 20 points. Then you apply formally, you sign an application form to apply for dedicated status. Obviously, by then you're a member of the Western Shooters, you're a member of your local shooting club as well. And then we sit as a committee, and then we award dedicated status to that person who's applied. Once a person has dedicated status, they're going to get a certificate from us saying they have dedicated status. The membership letter will be updated from occasional sports shooter to dedicated sports shooter. Then yes, endorsements are then issued for those firearms. So we're very careful that we only endorse firearms from the era or period. So in the main single action revolvers, although we do have a side portion of our organization, which is Well Bunch, which is based on the movie called The Well Bunch, where they use 1911s because the cowboy period basically ended about 1914. So that's sort of one of the few semi-automatics you can own in Cowboy Action Shooting, which is for a Well Bunch, total different type of shoot. So we issue endorsements, and sometimes we do reject endorsement applications where we see that the weapon is not part of our era. So we definitely era specific. And Wild West firearms in the main, as I said. We don't endorse double action revolvers because we single action revolvers, although there were some double action revolvers from the era, they were very rare. So we focus on single action revolvers, lever action rifles. The other unique thing about our sort of organization is that national shoot I spoke about, which we alternate now between Cape Town and Bloemfontein. We, as the organization, pay for the majority of those costs, and including your accommodation there, your food there, and that all the person really has to spend, the biggest spend is the traveling costs to Bloemfontein or to Cape Town. So we spend a substantial portion of our budget on our income on the national shoot. So it's to the benefit of all our members, to partake in the national shoot. So I know that obviously other organizations contribute to national shoot, but we spend a substantial amount of money towards national shoot. Also, what we're looking forward to in the very near future is awarding colors for Cowboy Action Shooting. Because we're affiliated with SASCO, our next step going forward would be to award provincial colors and proto colors for Cowboy Action Shooting. And because we're part of this international organization, we have had overseas people compete in South Africa before, but we also sent some of our members to America to go compete at SAS in America. So being part of an international organization, our members can compete in far field as Russia to New Zealand, Australia, America, Germany, wherever they want to go to the world's the limit, so to speak. So we certainly are looking at awarding provincial national colors in the very near future. And that will be part of being a member of our organization.
Damien, COVID came and took us all by surprise. How did it affect your organization, Western Shooting Organization? And what can you tell your dedicated status? I know a lot of people are panicking about that.
Yeah. So we made a decision. So unfortunately, obviously, as you know, sports shooting had to come to an end. So all our club shoots had to come to an end. But what we did as a national organization, we had a meeting and we decided that whilst the COVID, once we were in this lockdown, it was impossible for our members to compete, we decided to award points to all our dedicated members so they can continue to maintain their status. So whatever points they would have had normally at a club shoot, we've awarded all our members for this period from the end of March until we know we can start shooting again, which we hope is from July. So our members shouldn't be concerned at all about losing their dedicated status or failing to maintain their status. We made that decision. As a lawyer, obviously, I know about impossibility of performance and those type of things. So we know that in terms of the law, when it's impossible for our members to compete, we cover them in this respect, and we've said to our members, we will be awarding points for this period whilst we're in this lockdown until we can return to sort of normal shooting. A lot of members are obviously looking extremely forward to this lockdown coming to an end and getting back on the range and smelling the gun smoke again, or
some nice cordite.
Yes. So yeah, people are itching to get back on the range, that's for sure. So as soon as we know, hopefully we'll get the regulations next week, so we know that sport shooting is back, or sports are back. We will obviously start opening up again as soon as we know.
I think part of the reason as well is because it is so social, and you do live yourself into in characters, so you miss your fictional friends.
Absolutely,
so to speak. It's very much.
I think it almost becomes a family, and everyone sort of supports one another. We supported one another through this tough time period, and it's really, I think you get really close to your fellow cowboys and cowgirls and that type of stuff. So I think a lot of our members are missing that sort of family orientation, and it's an outlet obviously for a lot of people with stressful jobs and stressful world that we're in. Is this getting out of yourself completely and going to something completely different? So yeah, absolutely. I think all our members are keen to get back onto the range.
Damien, thank you so much for telling us all about Western shooting. Having experienced it myself, it is awesome, crazy, mad fun. I would definitely recommend it. It is a total blast. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you to Miranda. Thank you to you very much, and thank you for Tim as well for organizing this, and I appreciate it. And hopefully see you back with us. Come join us again, Miranda. The invitation is always open. We've always been like that.
Definitely do.
That's also, just want to say something about that. We've always been open to that. Some shooting sports are quite, they're quite picky about their firearms. We've always been open to allowing people to come and join us and using our firearms under our supervision, of course. But we've always been open to that. We encourage people to join us and sort of come and experience, what we go through in that. But thank you very much, Miranda, and thanks to Tim as well. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. And I can just say, hee-haw!